I'm Ariana with ARIID Group, and welcome to our channel where we will talk about everything design as well as build and furnish. So we cover all of those things. And today, and actually moving forward, we'll have Brandon. He is our sales manager, and I would love for you to introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, my name's Brandon Holland. I'm the senior sales manager for ARIID Build and Remodel. Been in the construction industry for 26 years, and I've worked with everyone from investors to homeowners to help achieve their goals and dreams for their space. So I'm excited to be here.
Thank you, and we're excited that you are part of our team. So this is really nice. So today we want to talk about a few topics that come up through design, and I think you might find them very interesting. And we'd love to do more of these podcasts. So if you like a topic that we discussed, would love for you to comment in the messages below so we can have more of these podcasts. We're looking forward to bringing some other experts to our podcast and talk all things design and build. So the first question that I would love to ask you is, can you walk us through a project where design decision completely changed the outcome for better or worse? I think this is something that please share your experience with us.
Yeah, so one of the most common things that I come across, in the past, people used to put their washer and dryer in the basement, and it's very inconvenient. You're going up and downstairs every time you do a load, and quite frankly, washers and dryers have gotten so much quieter. They're more efficient, and so simply just moving the laundry room into the main living is a game changer for most people.
That's actually a good thought. And even now we have multiple washers and dryers. Someone wants to have something that's closer to their closet. Just thinking about the convenience. And more than that is, how do people live?
Absolutely. So a question I have for you is, how do you navigate the tension between what a client wants and what the space actually needs?
Yeah, that's a good one.
I don't envy you.
I know, right? But sometimes we're like a therapist, but therapists for the interior of our space, right? Like, how do we actually make this space work? So what our design team is really good at is really taking what the client's needs are. And those could be lifestyle. It could be needs-wise. Maybe it's we have kids or dogs, or we have guests that come over, like everything that you could possibly imagine. And then taking the space that we currently are working in. Sometimes it's about expanding the space if we can outside the footprint, or a lot of times it's even keeping the existing footprint. And footprint is basically what the home is as is, and maybe expanding some of these spaces that have not been designed well. So what we see a lot of times is wasted spaces for corridors and these weird areas that you can open up and really create a different space. It is a merge of the needs and wants, and also what can we do with some space we can stay within a footprint. Sometimes we need to go outside, but it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it really pays off if it's done well, for sure. So some of the other questions that we get, and especially with the construction, is, have you been you're working through and you're specializing more and you've seen projects all the way through construction. So we're now, a client is in the middle of construction and they realize like, oh, this is not really working. What we wanted to do is not working. What do you do? And like, how do you address those issues?
Yeah, when you're mid-project and, something has to change for one reason or another, the spokes, and you just got to handle it with a lot of patience and understanding. One particular situation I had, I was working with an investor client, and they had made all their material selections, but we didn't really go through a full design process. And so when we got to the end of the project, we'd removed an interior wall that opened up some daylight to the living room area. It didn't quite capture as much light as they had expected. And so, we were already we'd already painted, finishes were already in, and we were about ready to turn the space over. And during the final walkthrough, we realized that we needed to add can lights to the living room. And, it was a very expensive mistake that could have been avoided with a proper design process. But, at the end of the day, the client was happy and we were able to get it done. You can never do anything to a house that can't be,
right. And it's like, as long as there's a budget, right, we can do it. But a lot of times it is a budget.
Absolutely. And so, especially working with investors, they have a tighter budget. And so it was a costly mistake, but we recovered from it. And in the end, they were happy.
Yep. So to recap, it's like really taking the time to properly design. So this is one thing that we really want to do for our clients, is be there from design all the way through build. And those steps can and will save on costs, for sure, if they're planned for, if they're acknowledged, and those are important things.
So, I mean, you and I have had a lot of discussion about this, about the importance of materials and why they matter. So, how much does material selection shape the emotional experience of a space, and how do you help clients understand this?
Materials is like, sure, it's important to have a wall and like everything that goes to build that. And a lot of times, that's not what we are integrate, or that's not something that we as humans engage with, but we do engage with everything. So lighting is a big thing, texture in all of the materials. It could be from the surface under your feet. Is it soft? Is it hard? It could be that door handle. So like all the textures that we actually touch subconsciously, we might not even know, they will affect us. I do talk in my other YouTube videos about the design or even the materials and how they affect the mood and how can they enhance the space or actually create something that's not so comfortable. But textures and selections of materials for the right space is super important. If you have a busy family, if you have, maybe pets and so forth, those materials need to be, of course, different and thought through versus if maybe it's a couple and you use this place as, one of your vacation homes or something else. So but materials is everything, and getting those right is super important.
Yeah, and then I guess one of the things that stands out to me is, when you talk about textures, because so often we think about, the color palette and, your mood boards and things of that sort, but you don't really consider the texture as much, especially, not just the flooring, but also on the wall coverings, whether it's wallpaper or drapery, and even your furniture. That's something that I definitely have come to appreciate.
100%. Yes, that's a big one. And it's a fun one. We can talk more about it. It's pretty. There's a lot of things we can touch base on. Material kind of transitions into budgets, because then everything else is like, well, we could have leather wallpaper, right?
Right.
We're gonna have a different budget versus paint. So when it comes to budgets, how do you protect the integrity of a design without losing clients' trust? And that's kind of a big thing too, is with construction companies, like making sure that your contractor is taking care of you. And that's one of our big focuses, that and how that's where you come in, because you start from the beginning, and when it gets into those hard conversations about budgets, and everyone has them, how do you protect that integrity of the design? Because for me, design is important, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. And it's my job to make sure that I deliver the design that, we have a very talented team. So we'd be doing our clients a disservice if we didn't, deliver on that, on the build side. But, budgets are very important. And I like to have the money conversation early on, just to make sure that we are aligned with our clients. And it's very important to understand, what are the absolute musts, what are the wants, and then what are the things that are, up in the air. They're willing to, maybe compromise in some areas, depending on where the budget falls as we, get into the process. And so I think having that conversation on the front end is very important, so that, you can align yourself with the client and make sure that, you deliver the best product you possibly can while maintaining that budget. I don't care who you are. It doesn't matter if you're an investor or, a Fortune 500 CEO, you're going to have a budget in mind, and whether it's resale value driving that or, just reality. There's no reason to go too far with any property. So, we want to make sure we keep the budget in mind.
That's the big scary beat, right?
Yeah.
Comes up on every single project, no matter what. But we have a great team, and Brandon is excellent in helping and guiding you through the project or clients through the project. And he's there throughout all of the steps, making sure that we can, what we started, we can complete. And that's another big thing with the budget given.
Yeah. And when you're spending this kind of money, it's very important to make sure that whatever you do is going to last. The last thing you want to do is, get through design and build, and, we turn the project over to you, and 5 years later, you're looking at something that feels dated. So at least, my next question for you is like, how do you balance the current trends with timeless designs so that, the space doesn't feel dated in 5 years?
Yeah, that's actually a fun topic that we have with our clients. And I think because they do come to us and they're like, some things we can create fun spaces, which we love, and that's great. But all of them come down to, it's like, what is going to be like, do I have to redo this in 5 years? And I don't think anyone is too excited to go in and like, hey, let's remodel again, especially if you invested a lot of time and resources into it. So our biggest thing with the aesthetics and for it to last, it comes down to the quality of material. So if you have a nice brass faucet, that will look fabulous in 25 years versus, something that's going to, in a year, sure, you got it on a budget, but then you get what you pay for at the end of the day. Quality materials, that goes to talk about a longer lifespan. And I would say some hotels that are done really, really well, you walk in and they have original faucets that are 50, 70 years. And it's like, wow, this still looks nice, And so I feel like that's where the biggest thing is. Again, it's the quality of materials. So if you have a durable cabinet and it's done well, it's going to look fabulous and it's going to have that long value for you and for you to use it beautifully and nice.
Yeah, no, I do love that. Quality does make a huge difference. I think gold fixtures are one of those things that people thought went away and they're back in style. Well, they never really went away.
That's true.
When you talk about quality materials,
brass always
really,
been brass.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like brass did not really go away. It might have, and it was on the back burner a little, not even a little bit, but there was still an element through that. It's a warm material.
Absolutely.
And so we talked about materials. We talked about budgets, which was a big thing. So another question what we have is, what are the behind the scenes choices? So behind the scenes choices that people might not notice about the project. Could you talk about those? There's other things that we've talked about, the finishes, which is great. Everyone yes, I have to now get a good faucet. But what about all the things that people don't really think about when it comes to the build portion of a project?
Yeah, no, and that, it's a great question because there's a lot of projects where people have grand ideas about, they want to do an addition or they want to remove a load-bearing wall. And, sometimes, depending on budget, sometimes it's better to steer clear of an addition because the additional cost to gain that extra 200 square feet or 150 square feet can easily be offset tenfold by proper design and using the existing footprints. That's something that, we always try to, or at least I always try to look at how we can maximize the space that we have to begin with before we start looking at expensive options like additions, removing load-bearing walls. Load-bearing walls, a lot of times, they're not going to be nearly as expensive as an addition. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't, but it's more just informing the client, giving them the information that they need to make
100%.
A smart decision.
Yeah, that's a big thing with the design team. When we are in design phase, we do bring those things to the clients, to our clients, and it does come back to what do they want at the end. It is about does it bring up the cost, but we have to do things properly too. So additions are more expensive,
but that makes sense sometimes.
But sometimes they do, and we have to weigh it out too. Sometimes it's better to listen to the team and say, hey, it's not worth doing that, and we can put that investment somewhere else. Any project you do, there could be things that you weren't planning for. You start digging, and you have to deal with something else that you weren't sure what was, in the ground, and that does happen. Knowing that you need to have extra budget for anything that's major, but again, having a good plan and a plan B is good as well.
Well, then anticipating, because anytime you're doing a kitchen or a bathroom, it's safe to assume that there's going to be some water damage, and you're going to have to do some, minor structural repair. I've been doing this 26 years, and I don't know that I've ever remodeled a bathroom. And some sort of repair to the subfloor, the shutoff valves always need replaced. Just small stuff like that. This sounds ancillary, but it does add up. And so you try to anticipate and plan for that so that, you're not surprised.
So that's a good thing for anyone who's starting a project and budgeting things in. Is a smart way to budget for a project is to have, that extra buffer for those unknown things, because they will show up. And then it's like, hey, yes, you want to have it done nicely so you don't have to go back in 2 years and redo it. So getting the job done right is super important.
Absolutely. So, one advantage we have, being a design build firm is, the collaboration is fairly seamless. I mean, we are in the same office, we work closely together, and we have the same end goal in mind. How do the relationships between the designers, architects, contractors, and client affect the quality of the design decisions on the job site?
Those are big. So one of the visions with ARIID Group was to actually create that seamless collaboration between all trades. This what we noticed before is you would create a beautiful design, and we do put design in the front of everything because it is number one, it's important. Without good design, you're not going to have a good project. But also having that seamless integration with the build team, and that is a harmony. If you have the good structural, if you have a good team, the biggest thing that we've seen and heard from clients who have a designer, a contractor, a supplier, is they become kind of in the middle trying to manage everyone.
Right.
because it's like, yes, everyone is trying to help, but if you don't have like that solid core going through, or if a team specializes in just construction and they kind of have design on the side, then the design suffers. So what we try to have within our firm is almost these 3 pillars that are separate but under one roof, that are like that solid stool, 3-legged stool that support the whole project, and they do their own job really well and exceptional. We won design awards, and we want to continue doing that and deliver projects that are as perfect as a construction project can be. And we have high standards for all of our subs that come in and work for us, like no shortcuts, not shortcuts that they will have. And I think that's important to have that one umbrella team within. And I think this is what we have. And I love it.
Yeah. And I think one advantage that I definitely appreciate is, the availability of the design team when I do have a question, or when maybe the finish isn't to the quality that we want, and we hold our subs accountable. And it's very easy to, access the design team here. Whereas, when I was working with designers in the past, I tried to work with designers that were readily available, but sometimes your client would choose a designer and, you're forced to use them. And it's really a mixed bag as far as like what you're going to get when you don't have the choice.
You never know. Yep. So that's so true. So true. But we want to take care of everyone that comes through the door, and any project that we sign up for, we want to deliver at the highest level possible on all levels. So our last question for today is going to be really is like, how do you know that the project was truly successful? So that's from the inside. What does that define? What is the client's, reaction when they use the space over time? Please share a little bit about that.
So, my goal is to deliver the project on time and on budget. First and foremost, that's my number one goal. While maintaining the original design expectations, right? And so I want that client to walk into the space when we turn the project over and just have that wow moment where, they're just in love with their space again. Because a lot of times people come to us and they kind of fallen out of love with their space, or it's a new space and it's not theirs. And so I want them to feel like it's theirs and be in love with it. That's what I look for in a truly successful project.
I agree. That's kind of the whole circle of like, yes, this is what makes us happy as a design team as well, as when it gets built. And I think one of my favorite projects have been is when our team didn't have our build portion and we had a different contractor build the project. When I walked into a space, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is exactly our renderings. These are the materials, the specs, and they were actually delivered. And I do speak a bit more on the design, because that's really what I am in charge of, although I am there throughout the whole process. But it's quite amazing. And that's really our goal at ARIID Group, is to deliver these beautiful projects for people in the Seattle, Bellevue area, but also for people who are, in the middle of transition to a different state. We do work outside states. So we're like, if you're in Arizona, Nevada, or, Utah, Montana, where we do have a project in Montana, which is fun too. So we want to be that support and transition and pivot through different styles, but deliver the beautiful quality. So we want to continue having more dialogues and questions and dive more deeply into, if you are doing a project and like, hey, you want to manage it on your own, what to look for, like how, there's so many elements, from waterproofing to building a wall to have all of the construction questions. This is what we want to really have this podcast be, is dialogues and questions, and love to bring experts as well, like our electricians and others, that could share their experience and help educate our viewers on what will make a beautiful design, but also how to build it successfully. So at the end, it's a win.
Yeah, ultimately, we're here to be a resource. So, yes, anything we can do to answer questions or tackle subject matter that interests you.
Yes. So please do like and subscribe, and in the comments below, put some topics that you would love to hear that we can talk about and help broaden the vision and knowledge of what it is to create a beautiful space. So thank you so much, and we'll see you soon.